In your class, you talk about the Jedi mind trick.
All the time.
What is that?
The Jedi mind trick is the media and how it influences people that don't understand the media and what's happening in social media, and how sometimes in the music industry, we do a great job of Jedi mind trick in the music industry, where we can literally make an artist seem and appear to be extremely successful when in fact they're losing money for us. The Jedi mind trick. And we know also that the layperson, the common layperson, really get emotional and don't really intellectually sometimes look at the information.
Okay. You claimed at one point that you lost a $175 million deal because of the rumors about you selling memorabilia.
And that's a pending lawsuit, so I can't talk
Can't
about
speak
it.
on it. Okay.
But it was a press release that just came out
Right.
that we just won a major battle in the courts of Texas, that the judge has allowed us to move forward to a jury trial for $100 million.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes, and it's a signal to everyone that for a while we sat back, and we being myself, let me speak just for me. I let people say things that were 100% false. My philosophy is that if recording artists would sue more and more people that constantly say things that are false, that people would stop saying it, because the legal costs alone would make them stop saying negative stuff. But unfortunately, we don't have an industry that pulled together like corporate America. Social courage.
Well, one of the things that I talk about a lot on Vlad TV is finances and investing. I actually have I actually started an Instagram page called Vlad Stocks, where I talk about the basics of investing and, what you have to do before you start investing, like getting rid of your debt, having health insurance, and so forth. When you start having a lot of money pour in, what did you do to protect that money and grow that money?
Okay, great question. Just a little context. You maybe you didn't know this, but for years I've taught grad school media entrepreneurship, and I went back and got my MBA, and I have a PhD from Cornerstone Christian and Bible College. So,
Congrats.
Fortunately for me, in 1980, I was making $200,000 at Xerox. Tina and I started a business in around 81, 82, a hair salon. And so she and I made our first $1 million. It was a partnership between Tina and I. We made our first $1 million around 1984, 1985.
From the hair salon?
Yes.
Really? It was that
successful. And we had it for 17 years.
Okay.
17 years. And then we sold House of Darion, a clothing line, for $65 million. So I appreciate the financial conversation.
Okay.
So for me, and this is what I teach, so it's first the who, the what, the why, the creative process comes first. If you're an entrepreneur, the who is my customer, the why should they buy it, and the what is my product, the who, the what, the why. And then building that team around you. And it starts with having an accountant. And there's areas in our lives that we're not experts, and we realize that we're not experts, and we put people around us. And that's the thing people have to do, is put people around them that are experts in that area. And that's where I started, is getting an expert. And that's what we did.
Okay. Because, I have the theory that I have when it comes to money is I feel there's really no such thing as a middle class. There's really just rich and poor.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. And being rich and poor...
I'd rather be rich.
Right. Me too. And the difference between rich and poor really doesn't depend on a salary, because there's people that make $200,000 that are living paycheck to paycheck. And there's people that are making $50,000 that have been consistently putting money aside, and that money has been growing, that are either already rich or on their way to being rich.
So let me tell you how my parents, who were entrepreneurs, that were poor, country people, we call them. Boy, it ain't how much you make, it's how much you save. And that's what you say.
Right. What have you done to grow your investments?
To grow my investments,
Yeah.
I've invested. There are announcement actually that will be made here shortly in a Canadian company, technology company. I have the Knowles Institute that we're launching. You can go to knowlesinstitute.com, and it's online e-learning. That's where I'm investing in the future. It's in e-learning, esports, anything that has E in front of it.
Okay.
That's where I'm investing. And I've invested in the content, 30 years of content that we have of Destiny's Child and all of my artists. This is my 25th year in the business. And I invested in people and equipment. And I'm investing in that because I think the return on that content will be 50 times fold.
I mean, have you invested in stocks and so forth?
I did early on. Not really my thing. I don't want to constantly be looking at it up and down and making those decisions.
Okay.
It's for some people, just not for me.
No, absolutely.
I invested in property.
Okay, so that was your thing.
Yeah, in Houston, I just recently sold last year, actually a year and a half ago, the Music World compound. I sold it. I bought it in 2002, and I sold it in 2016 to BMW. And
14 years later.
yeah, it was a great investment. I'll
Right.
just leave it at that.
You made.
I had 2 or 3 homes.
Okay.
So I invested in property, real estate.
Okay, and that was rental properties?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. Because I think a lot of people don't realize that your primary home isn't really a great investment.
No. Actually, I'm renting.
I'm renting,
Yeah, so you get it.
and I've got a pretty big house. Like, you know what I mean?
You get it.
I get it. And this, so let's talk about this.
Let's
because-
talk about that.
Let's talk about this, because whenever I bring this up, and this is, with the hip hop community, that there's such I feel a sense of, just in general, I feel there's a certain level of misinformation where they say, why would you throw your money away to rent when you could own and pay off the house? When in reality, you're just paying off the interest on your mortgage for like 15 years.
Exactly. You get it. So, I have properties that, I have people that rent from me, and I take that money to pay my note, and, I get to depreciate and all that stuff. And then the other reason why I rent is that I don't want to have a commitment. If I want to up and leave or change.
You can do that after a year.
Yeah.
Whereas 30 years down the line, you're still stuck with this place. Because in general, when you compare owning a house versus renting, you're almost always ahead by renting.
And when you look at the maintenance, you got to look at all taxes.
Property tax.
Right.
Then there's the actually trying to sell, the real estate fees, the closing costs.
Which is typically around 20% with your legal fees and all of that
legal
stuff.
fees, and the fact that the property could sit on the market for a year. The last property I had, it was a condo in Jersey, sat empty for a year until we finally were able to sell it.
Yeah.
And during that whole time, I had to pay a mortgage.
And especially an artist who's mobile and moving around and first of all, you're not going to even be there at that you're all over the country.
Yeah. Well, I remember I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was telling me, she was saying that in the Black community, the reason why so many people feel they need to own is because they feel like so many things were taken from them. That they would get kicked out, they would have to move and so forth, that there's a mentality that was passed down from your parents and your grandparents that you have to own a house. And, when I talk to a lot of people, they kind of said the same thing as soon as they got some money, their family's like, buy a house, buy the biggest house you can, which a lot of times ended up backfiring. They'd have to get rid of that house.
Well, I can go on and on. First of all, a lot of ego plays into that because I don't know for you, but I spend most of my time in the kitchen area and in the bedroom and the bathroom. And I've had as large as 15,000 square feet, and I still spent most of my time in those three areas. And I've had as small as 2,000 square feet, and I still spent most of my time in those three areas. So there's a lot of ego that goes with getting this big old house and all of that you don't even live in most of the time. That's number
Right.
one. And when you talk about the black community, you're right. I mean, it started out years ago. And it's a whole thing that I am presenting to my community that I have wealth. And it's, again, a Jedi mind trick
Yeah.
because you don't have wealth. It used to be a Cadillac back in the 50s. You know, Cadillac Records, it's like it showed how you know if a black man's successful, he has a Cadillac. And then it became, how do you know if a black man's successful? He owns his own house. But that's because one of the areas I think the black community, I know we have to get better is understanding fundamental finances.